We're live for part 2. 6 watching. Yeah. Well, there's 6 people out there who want to see part 2 of our Q&A. So thanks for joining us. I guess not necessarily everyone was around for part 1. We'll have that archived on our YouTube channel. So let's start fresh. I'm Jason Rowland, the Vice President of the World Series of Comedy.
And I am Joe Lowers, CEO and President
of
the World Series of Comedy.
Welcome, Joe.
Yes,
I was gonna fuck around on the last one. I was like and subscribe, hit button now. Watch our reaction video. Like we're like one YouTube go into it.
Every time there's a and I'm like every other comic. As soon as there's a camera on, I want to just start acting stupid. I know we're doing these. And it's a comedy festival, so we can carry on. But I just want to just start acting like an idiot, which is not going to help anybody with the festival. But I'll have a good time.
It's a great way for us to start a Q&A, just being assholes for the first 2
All right, now let's get serious.
The way that this works is that we're going to try and respond. Well, we will respond to all of your comments. So comment on the YouTube link live. It'll pop up into our feed, and we'll be able to see what questions you would like to have answered. We're also going to go over specifics of the main event. This particular Q&A is more geared towards people who've attended the main event in the past and just give them answers about what this year's festival will look like in November. So first and foremost, November 9th to 14th at LA Comedy Club in Las Vegas in the Stratosphere Hotel and Resort.
Great club.
Really great club, very huge supporters of the festival. We've done 3 satellites events there in the past 3 years. Joaquin and Matt are really awesome dudes, and we've been working with the hotel.
Guys, little backstory on those guys. They have been working, like I have lived in Vegas for 15 years, and when I moved out there, they've been in probably, I'm going to guess, maybe 6 or 7 locations.
I remember they were at Bally's before.
Yeah, they are 2 of the hardest working guys. And I'm not saying that because they're having us out. And I'm not saying even if they don't see this or know, I mean, they're just hard working. They really work hard, and they really pushed to have this club there, and they've done really well. And every time they moved and succeeded, I was always happy for them. And it's really cool.
Well,
it's just
very comic forward. They really want to create a great environment for comics to perform.
Oh, they love comedy.
And that really aligns well with sort of like the point of view of our festival. It's, the whole reason this thing was put together was to try and give as many opportunities to comedians who are underrepresented in the comedy industry to get in front of decision makers to potentially get paid work. So, Joe, I know that most of the people who would be watching this part 2 will have participated in the past, but maybe give a little bit of background on why you created the festival and sort of what the point of the main event is.
I created the festival because I love helping comics. I love seeing them advance, love seeing them get work. The first couple festivals I did way back in Pittsburgh, I went to my home club and I asked him if he could let me do the festival, and I asked him what his slowest month was, and he gave me the whole month, and I did an entire month of contest. And my hope was to get 1 or 2 guys work at the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh. And when it was over, 8 to 12 guys got work, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And when I moved to Vegas to do my show, I kind of just said I can't do the World Series anymore. I moved to Vegas for my show, and I was doing my show, and I got to talking to my host, the very first host of the World Series, David Toby, and I got to telling him about the World Series. He's like, oh, you got to do this again. And I'm like, that's a lot of work. It's crazy. And I said, plus I gave away money because it was the money from the club. And I go, I don't have money to give away as a prize. And so I literally thought about it for years and went back and forth over it. And I finally came up with, what do comics want? They want work. They want to meet people. So that's kind of how I came up with the system that we go with now. And it's been working. And it's the comics win work. They get to meet the people who give them work. And it's really exciting for me. I love it. I love doing it.
Sorry to interrupt. One of the things that we want to make sure that this question has been posed offline before we started the Q&A. And like I said, if you're watching live right now, please feel free to fill out the comments in the chat, and we'll answer the questions that you may have. one of the things that has been brought to our attention is some comedians are concerned that in this day and age, if they win the work, they might not get the work because some clubs are either backed up on bookings or not operational right now. So I guess our message to them is winning and having that work on the books, even though it might not get scheduled right now, is much better than not having that opportunity presented to you.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say, would you rather have the work, be offered the work, or not be offered it at all? And yeah, I mean, they know, the comics know, we all know, everybody knows it's going to be harder. It's going to be it may take a little bit longer for the winner or whoever wins work this year to get that work. And you know, I tell the bookers when I talk to them, I always say, hey, there's not, you know, every once in a while I get a booker, they're like, oh, I can't book them this year. And I'm like, I'm not looking for this year. I'm looking for next year. Like the comics who win work this year, they'd be awarded that work in 2021. I may, and I know this is going to happen, I'm going to have to talk to some of the bookers and say, they're going to be like, well, I can't guarantee it 2021. And I'm going to have to say, well, will you at least guarantee it as soon as you can sometime? Maybe it's 2022. And I know that's crazy. But I think that as a comic, I would rather be at least say, I got that work sometime, as opposed to not getting it at all. So is it what I want to do? Is it what we want to do? No, but I'm going to do everything I can to get as much work for the winners. And if I have to move it around a little bit and switch it around a little bit, then I'm going to do what I got to do to get them to club off that work.
During our online satellite events, which we had to create basically from scratch and migrate our entire business model to adapt to these COVID times. But all of those clubs are honoring the work that was won by the participating comedians. And all our message as the World Series of Comedy is we're trying to facilitate you getting paid work. Just be patient. Be aware that,
what did you say? You were going to send out an email. You sent me an email. We actually had a long conversation about this, but we were going to send an email to the clubs to all the winners of the stuff and to the clubs saying, you know, everybody understands, everyone's going to work together. Let's just, you know, give them that work and because we've had a few clubs that were concerned that they were not going to be able to take care of. They love the festival and they want to give the work, and they were concerned that they wouldn't be able to give it fast enough. And I had to take and talk to them and say, hey, we understand that. So do the comics. They still want to have the opportunity to win this prize. So could you please, you know, give it to me and let them win it, and then we'll all work out on when it happens.
Yeah, we just have to be aware that clubs now not only have to worry about when they're going to reopen if they're not open currently, but then also rescheduling everyone who has already booked previously, and then now fitting new people into their schedule. So just be patient, work together, and they'll honor the work for you. Like Joe said, the clubs were actually really explicit in their concern of them not wanting to come off looking bad by saying, oh, I'm promising you this work, but I can't promise it for another.
Yeah, they didn't. It's not that they want to give it to you. They're afraid that the comic might get mad at them because it's taking too long. And I assured the clubs that the comics wouldn't get mad. So I'm asking the comics who win this thing, you know, please don't get mad. Know that they all want to give it to you. They're all working. I had one of the major clubs that we deal with who had told me that things are going to change a lot, that some of the theater comics, the big name comics that normally go into theaters and haven't worked in clubs in years, are now going to go step back to clubs because they need to get back on stage. They need to make money. That's great for the audience watching. It's terrible for us as our regular comics because everybody gets bumped down and pushed back.
And one of the reasons why these bigger name comics would be sort of migrating their performances back to the club is because the clubs themselves have a lot of accountability in terms of following safety protocols. So that kind of ties into our relationship at the main event with LA Comedy Club. Part of the reason why we're going to a club this year is that not only is this club going to have to adhere to their city, state, and federal bylaws in terms of social distancing and crowd gathering size and protocols for safety for COVID, but it's also inside of a casino. And those are highly regulated buildings who also have to ensure the safety of their customers. Plus, they have massive liability issues. Like if a casino gets sued, it's a lot different than, you know, like a grocery store getting sued for.
And they don't want to open up and then have to close back down. So they're going to follow the rules, which makes it easier for us. We just follow their rules and we'll be okay.
Right. In the past, we've sort of held the main event at independent venues, and we've handled ticketing and seating and that kind of thing. But one of the things now with being in a club, it allows us to provide as safe an environment as possible, and also have people who are comfortable dealing with these safety protocols and policies in place, actually enforcing them. So the club will have operated and know how to operate in circumstances.
Anybody who knows me, and if you don't know me and you're just listening for the first time stuff, I'm crazy nuts about making sure that the showroom is perfect for the comic. I stand on stage when we set the room. I look at every single chair and make sure it's aimed at the audience member. I want the room cold and uncomfortable. I want the audience to be uncomfortable. I want their shoulders rubbing together. If I had to go into a banquet room, I mean, like a showroom somewhere else at another casino, and we set up the main event, and I go in and they go, hey, you got to leave a 6-foot gap up front, my head would explode. So that's one of the reasons we're going to Las Vegas, is that's getting taken out of my control, and I'm going to honor whatever LA comes. They're going to set the room up the best that they can and are allowed to following COVID. But if there's an empty spot that I can relax.
Well, one of the things, Joe and I, for the last 6 months now, have been searching and digging deep for silver linings in all of this. One of the silver linings is we're forced to migrate the satellites online, which now means we have the skills to do that. So we may continue that in the future, where we might have 4 online satellite events.
I think next year, those could be huge. The 4 online satellites. I mean, if I know, I mean, these ones were just tossed at us, and we had to do them last minute, figure it out. But now that we've gotten pretty good at them and they're working out, I think planning 4 of them next year as a mix in with our stuff, we'll be able to have not just the club involved, but maybe, 15, 20 bookers watching. They could be as huge as the main event.
They could almost basically substitute as your in-person showcase for a number of clubs. Just about participating in that event.
I just think they could be huge. No, I just think the online ones could be huge next year, and that's our plan. We plan to put a lot of work into them, even more than we have this year.
Right, and one of the other silver linings is getting back to your configuration of the showroom. One of the conversations you and I have had is we might end up with the best videos at the main event, because front row center might have to be unoccupied, which means we might have a camera right there.
With us streaming, we're planning on streaming the shows, and my plan is to set the camera right dead center and put it high enough and get a really good shot, and that way the people at home watching it, audience members at home, or bookers, because I plan on contacting bookers and asking them to come to the main event, and the ones that say, yeah, I'll be there, I'll mark them down. But the ones that say no, as soon as they tell me no, then I'm going to send them a schedule of shows and say, which 1 or 2 or 3 of these are you willing to sit at home and watch live? Right. And they can judge on Zippy Vote live at home too, watching it. So it's crazy what COVID has done to us, but I'm always one who believes good things can come out of crazy things, and there's going to be some crazy inventions and crazy things that happen that we don't even know about because of this. And as far as the festival, I see more industry being able to watch throughout the year. I see more industry being able to watch at the festival, and that in return can only help the comics.
Right. One of the things that you and I get feedback from time to time that when people first meet us in person, they may have like elements of being intimidated, probably mostly just because of the title. I mean,
yeah, and me. I think it's more me because you're Canadian, so you come across much nicer.
Well, I just am nicer also.
Well, yeah, you tell yourself what you need to.
But one of the other things that the point I'm kind of getting to is that we're very receptive to feedback. One of the things that we've adapted this year is we've changed the actual format of the main event slightly. So if you've participated in the past, it's going to be a little bit different this year. I'm just going to ask our production team, Mike, maybe if you could jump on the Top 101 page and share that screen with us.
Production team. We sound like holy shit. Production team.
It'll show that we've added a quarterfinal round. So Joe, maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's we have anybody who's done the satellites, you guys know that there's the part of, I think, the thing that comics like about this contest is the time keeps increasing for you as you move on in the contest. And at the satellites, we have the 11-minute show. It's the show right before the finals. And I love that show. It's a really good show for us to see more of the comic. See if 11 minutes really shows us if you could do 25. And throughout the years, we've really been able to whittle it down better because of that show. And I also think it's a great show for the comics to show more of what they have. And it was just driving me nuts that show wasn't there for the main event. Like we would go from 5, I think it's 5, 6 minutes or whatever. Then it goes to 8 and then to 25. There's no that middle ground. So we definitely put it in. Real quick, I see Mike's asking a question. It's in just on the outline of the show. Like
I think Top 101 / Top 101.
Yes, Top 101. That's where you'll find it, like to show where it's going to be. But we added it to Friday, and it's just it's going to be longer and more work for us, but that doesn't matter. That's what we do. That's what this festival is about. And I really think it's going to give the chance for the industry to see a really good show of 8 comics doing 11 minutes, and I think it's 8. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, just for those of you who don't know, I used to be a comedy club manager, and sort of the magic times are like 5, 7, 11, or 12 if you're going to showcase. So an 11-minute quarterfinal, I think, really is a good indication of whether or not that person has the chops to perform at 25 and is bookable as a feature as well. So I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for someone to show a little bit more than the 7-minute set.
Yeah, and if Mike's looking for it, but I mean, if you're looking for it, you want to see where it's at. It's going to be in the Top 101. Yeah, if you scroll down, there it is. So that's probably how I'll do the placement too. Is I'll probably do like the first place comics will get the better spots, and then the second place comics will be the first 4, and everybody will do. So that should say 11 minutes. It still says 8. Thanks for putting that up. I just see a mistake. It should say each comic will be performing 11 minutes.
Just to get to some of the comments that we see in the stream here. Jennifer, I think that's due to the pandemic. Will there be less bookers due to them not knowing if they can provide works? I don't think that's going to be a factor in terms of participation and having the bookers come to the main event. Joe, maybe talk through the process of when you contact bookers, when they commit to coming, and how many we have. Yeah. I think we've averaged 17 bookers a night over the course of the festival for the last.
Yeah, so one of the reasons we decided this year to go back to Las Vegas was because of COVID caused us to do this. We did it. We chose it for several reasons. One of the reasons was, there's a lot of elements that go into putting this festival together. I mean, you got all the shows. We've got to make sure there's audience members. Got to make sure there's industry. As far as industry, I don't live there anymore, but I lived there, for 15 years. There's already easily probably 5 to 6 built-in industry already there. Brad Garrett's comedy club. I just was Jimmy Kimmel's comedy club. There's a lot of clubs there that will come out and support the festival. It's close enough to LA that I know of several industry that will come over because it's there, and aren't too worried about COVID, or they're worried about it, but they'll do what's needed and they'll come over. Is it going to be harder this year to get industry for me to get them there? Yes. Is the festival going to hurt because of it? I sure hope not. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. But I mean, every single year I contact industry, and every single year I'd love to have a list of who's coming. And I know that there's a lot of comments going, can't you tell us who's coming? Sometimes I don't know until the week before. Like I sit and I call and I pick up the phone and I call and I email and I talk and set up whatever way I can get a hold of somebody. And they're like, yeah, I'm coming. But then they won't commit. And I try to get them to buy their flight. And then, just yesterday I got an email from a booker asking, hey, do you want me to come? So that was cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's not just club bookers and managers. We've also had like talent agents. We've had America's Got Talent show up. We've had managers and agents. We've had people who work in the entertainment industry who can maybe do a seminar on voiceover work or writing scripts or converting your jokes into monologue style jokes so that you can monetize your intellectual property a little bit more. So it's not just managers and bookers, but do keep in mind that a club manager, club booker also still has their obligation to their home club. One of the cool things about the main event is not only do the comedians have the exposure to multiple industry during a show, but one of the greatest elements of feedback that Joe and I have received from the industry is we're giving them the opportunity to see 150 comics they could potentially book in a 7-day period. That would take them probably 2 years of shows at their club to go through that many people.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be different, probably, maybe. We hope not. But, I mean, this whole year, I think I appreciate all the comics that are still part of this festival. I've had a very few that have got or whatever, but the majority feedback that I've been getting is thank you for us keeping it going. Thanks for keeping the showcases going. I'm just one who doesn't stop. I'm not gonna. I will take what's going on. I understand. I'm not stupid. I know what's happening. COVID is not a good thing. There's lots of problems, but I'm not gonna just say we're done. I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep trying.
The easiest thing to do would have been to fold up the tent and just pitch it in for this year. And one of the things that has happened is that Joe and I have both put in a lot of work to keep the shows running online, to keep our engagement with the comedians as close to how it's been in the past. But we've received a lot of very positive feedback from a number of comics, and that really helps make all the time and effort we put into it worth it, knowing that we're still out there for comedians to be seen.
One person tells me thank you, and that keeps me going for another 2 weeks. And I don't need to hear it. I'm not doing this for the praise. I'm not doing it for like, hey, that's not why I do it. I do it because I enjoy comedy. I like helping comedians, and I'm just not somebody who quits. I'm a fighter, and I'm going to keep fighting. And Jason is also a fighter, and him and I have we've had just tons and tons of conversations about what to do, and keep making plans and keep working. And
just to let the viewers know, all of our live events this year were rescheduled at least 3 times before they eventually were postponed and migrated to online events. So we've been working behind the scenes to try and keep the live events going as much as possible.
The clubs have been great. They've been trying. And there's so many clubs that are like, oh, we love when you come to Eric in Colorado, Jen and at Laughs Unlimited. I mean, they enjoy the week that we're there. It's a fun week. Eric, it's so funny. He's the owner of Looney's Comedy Club, but he's one night after the show, he's like, this is my favorite week of the year. Oh shit, I shouldn't have told you that.
Yeah.
I don't want you to know this is my favorite week of the year. And I go, why? And he goes, oh, I just love hanging out with you guys. I love all the comics. There's just so many comics hanging out. It brings my club to life. It's just
one
fun.
of the fun things is, I don't know if you remember, but last year, the last time we were at his club in Colorado Springs, Brett just showed up out of the blue to come watch a show. One of the people who had performed previously, and he's like, I just want to go and hang out with Joe and Jason. So that was really cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. He came down.
Yeah, we've made a lot of really good friendships through this festival, and so just like anyone, we want to try and help our friends be successful. And so we fought really hard to try and keep as much of this going as possible. When we get to the main event, we're still going to have the networking opportunities for you, not only from like comic to comic, but also with the industry. Thursday afternoon is going to be our formal meet and greet. So if you're not able to attend the full week of the main event, although I suggest that you do, because we have daytime professional development seminars every single day of the week. We have the contest element, but more importantly, we have the networking opportunities, just hanging around, meeting new people, meeting other comics, like-minded comics.
It's your job. That's one thing comics don't look at, is saying, this is a job. I know it's a fun job and it can be a lot of fun, but this is our job, and you should come out to Vegas planning to work. I remember Ty Rivera, who won the festival. I can't even remember what year it was, but afterwards he wrote a really good little story on Facebook about how to win the World Series of Comedy, and I loved it, and it was great. And it's somewhere on our Facebook or something. But he basically, and Ty, if anybody who knows Ty, very funny guy, super great guy, but he likes to party, he likes to carry on, he likes to be around stuff. He came out to the main event in Las Vegas that year. He said, I didn't party. I didn't do any. I went down to the shows to win it. He went after the shows. He looked at what he had done. He looked at it as a job, and he destroyed that year. And there was nobody that came close to him. Like, he was probably my dirtiest winner ever, and I love that because he was so good. Some of the bookers were like, I don't know. I don't know if I could have him in my club. He's so dirty. And they're like, but they're still giving him great scores because he was so good, and he was doing it in such a great way. And you could tell he put the work into it. He came there to win, and there was.
I was the manager of the Comedy Mix in Vancouver at the time, and he was awarded a week of work with us. And so he was one of the first performers from the World Series of Comedy that came and performed at the club that I was managing. I think Dave Williamson, who's at networking, we should just have him come do a seminar about networking and getting out there. He's now Bert Kreischer's personal opener. He hustled so hard, but earned every moment of stage time.
He was ready to quit. You know that? He was going to quit, and then he came in third, and now he's living in LA, doing well. This is fucking registration open for this thing still. And I'm like, you don't have to register. I fucking get shit out of it. I don't want to fucking do this thing anymore. He came in second and third, 2 or 3 years in a row. And he was so close to winning. And it's just insane that, it's so close, this whole contest. But he would just text me or call me. Is this fucking registration open? I'm like, you don't have to do it. Don't yell at me.
But just to sort of get back to my original point, that if for some reason you're not able to be there for the full week, really budget to be there Thursday afternoon. That's when we're going to have the actual formal meet and greet, where we have tables and chairs set up with all of our industry that are going to be in town at the time. You can drop off your promotional materials with them, meet them in person. And it's not just limited to club bookers and club owners. Like I said, last year we had 3 record companies represented, I think. I know that in the last 4 or 5 years, there's probably been somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 record deals signed with World Series of Comedy performers over the course of those 3 record companies. There's been a bunch of people this year who've released an album that most of the contacts and networking that they did were associated with the festival somehow. Kojo Prince, Paul Conyers, Anthony Davis, Gayla Johnson in the past. The winner gets a record contract with Uproar Records, but 800 Pound Gorilla was there. Stand Up Comedy Records was associated with us last year as well. So there's lots of other avenues to explore in terms of networking and getting to know people within the comedy industry at the main event. It's basically a week-long job seminar. But again, part 2 is kind of focused on people who've been there in the past. The schedule of events. Maybe, Mike, if we get a chance to put up the schedule of events, Joe, you can talk about this. I know we talked about it in part 1, but maybe we should talk about it here again in part 2 for people who
if you go to the website now, and I mean, you're a comic and you're thinking about coming to the main event, you go there and you're like, oh, this is last year's. It's hard for me to put up this year's yet. If you've come to several of them, then you kind of start to know that we pretty much follow the same seminar. I mean, the schedule pretty close. I just redo it and try to book the same slots because it seems to work, and we don't do anything before noon. I know the one year we were at the one satellite, and they were like, I mean, the one at the main event, we're setting it up the one casino, and they're like, we'll set up a special breakfast for all your people. And I'm like, can you do a lunch? And they're like, no, we do and I go, if you see one of my comics walking around at 9 or 10 in the morning, they're still up from the night before. Like we don't really do anything. I mean, even noon, the noon seminars are funny to me. The people walk in, look like they're like, it's usually last minute. I'm always like, is anyone going to come down to this? And all of a sudden the room fills up. And
12:59 for a 1 o'clock seminar. The seminar, not only do they offer you information on professional development, it could be everything from joke writing to set construction to increasing your revenue streams to decreasing your costs to converting your material into late night monologue style. I don't know if I talked about that in this one or in the previous one, but the daytime seminars are great because you can just meet with the people who are hosting the seminar afterwards. So it's kind of like a good informal way to break the ice and get to know someone who works within the industry and pick their brain about how the real world of comedy works.
And I would look at it like I remember last year, Joel Byers' podcast seminar.
Right.
I thought it was great. And that was the first year we decided to do that. And I had a couple comics come up to me and they're like, oh, I'm not planning on doing a podcast. I'm not going. But Joel touched on so many other parts of business that you could go, okay, I'm not doing a podcast, but I need to be doing this.
Right.
Or that, you know.
That's example.
That's what I'm talking about working. There's so many guys who, like, I know it's a tiring week. It can be really tiring if you do everything. If you go out and party and hang out until 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, like that happens quite often.
Don't sleep
either.
They're really valuable, and you don't know what kind of information you're going to take away from them because there's a lot of stuff that is laterally transferable to other elements of your life or of the business of comedy for you personally. We got a question. Sorry?
I watch them every year. I learn something. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't think of that.
One of the things that a question got posted, and it's kind of written here at the bottom, is whether or not we're going to be streaming the broadcast online. We highly encourage you to come attend the main event in person. If for some reason, scheduling wise or something like that you can't, we're going to look into the potential of streaming the seminars live and creating like a private hidden stream that only registered comedians can watch. We are also going to be live streaming the shows themselves. And we're one of the few festivals out there that creates an opportunity for the participants to generate revenue while they're at the event. We've created special custom ticket codes that give a 50% discount for any ticket that you can sell on our behalf. And you also get 20% of the revenue for any ticket sales. We're also going to create a by donation live stream ticketing site and give you the opportunity to refer people to watch the live stream. And you get 20% of all the donations that are made there. So last year, with no exaggeration, there were multiple comedians who made over $100 while at the main event.
I love that. I love it. I'm so excited about that. That's why we came up with the streaming idea. We're like, oh, we could give them money for this too. And does it help us? Yes, 100%. I'm not going to, you selling a ticket for the show helps us make money to pay for the things we have to pay for. It also helps the audience. So yeah, it helps the festival. But does it help you? Yeah, you can make money, and that's fun, man. I want to think more. I like these two ideas we have, and like you said, Jason, you just said the other day, there could be a comic who maybe doesn't even get in or isn't planning on coming, but if they're good with promoting or whatever, they could push the shit out of these streaming shows and get people watching them and make money.
Yeah, we even talked about how people might already be streaming their own Zoom shows, and we can just offer our shows as more product for them to sell, even just passively. If they sell one, they'll still make some money off of it, you know? So one of the things that we want to do is increase.
And people streaming will be able to vote too. So that's something we haven't been able to do in the past, where audiences at home were not able, like, you know, if you're performing and your family can't make it out to see you in Vegas perform, they could never vote for the show. But now the audience members will be able to vote. We'll be able to get industry to watch the streaming, and they'll be able to vote with the judging stuff. All that will come to my computer. So I just total up the score. It automatically totals the scores up at the end for us, and so it's pretty cool. We'll be able to get outside votes for the first time.
One of the questions that we get asked the most is, how is the top 101 determined? We'll go over that in a second. But I think it's important maybe for Joe and I to mention that although we are judges for the submission videos, and we'll speak about that in a second, we actually don't judge at the main event.
No.
Yeah, so not only are we really busy with the logistics of running the main event, but also it, again, adds another layer of integrity where none of our influence can determine who the winners are and who advance. It's really based on the industry's impression of whether or not you would be a good fit for their club, or them as an agent, or them as a manager, or whatever. It's truly based on merit. And we often have 15 judges voting sometimes at some of the shows. And with
it might be more now with the streaming possibility. There could, and I know it's not ideal. I mean, that's not what every comic, they want to see them live. They want to be able to meet the person. Of course, that's what we all want. But this world has changed, and I think we might need to go what's going to make it better for us. So I think
personally, for me, I think the two hardest things that a comic has when they're developing their career is, one, in terms of material, coming up with unique premises that they can speak about from their own point of view. But in terms of the business side, it's actually getting the opportunity to showcase for clubs that could potentially either give them guest spots and or paid work. What you really need to do when you're considering attending the main event of the World Series of Comedy is not attend to become the outright winner, but attend knowing that you're given the opportunity to showcase for multiple decision makers at the same time, and also get to meet and actually chat with them in person. Like Joe says this all the time. We've seen people literally get paid work by buying someone a beer at the bar after a show, and they might not have seen them perform.
Just being cool sometimes works.
Yeah.
Don't attack the bookers. They're human. These guys are there. They came because they care about comedy. They want to learn. They want to see you guys. So just don't attack them.
We're basically a week-long conference all about comedy. We issue lanyards to people. I know that most of the people watching this part 2 have been to the main event before, but you know that you're walking around the venue for 7 days, and if you see someone wearing a lanyard, you know they're involved in the comedy industry somehow, and it's a great way to sort of start a conversation at the coffee shop or at the bar.
It's always crazy how many comics show up or walk by, and I'm like, they're trying to get into something. I'm like, where's your lanyard? You're like, you know me. And I'm like, well, not everybody who volunteers or works for the festival knows you.
Yeah, and you're also missing out on the opportunity to.
And you're missing out on you could be on the elevator with a booker, and he may think you look familiar, but he doesn't want to say anything because he doesn't remember your name, but he can look over, see your name, and start talking to you. Yeah. It's just I see people shoving them in their pocket. Not everybody. A lot of people wear them and stuff, but the ones that do, I'm always like, why are you not taking advantage? I know they're silly. We wear them. I get mad at my staff if they don't wear them. We wear them. I wear one.
We wear them during setup when no one else is in the showroom. We just get in the habit of wear this. Not only, like, say we run into a staff member at the club, they can now know our name just by looking at our lanyard, and it helps our relationship with the staff. When people,
it's branding, it looks good for us. And like when the comic, like, think about the business side of this.
Adam's comment, you just said, I'm wearing my lanyard right now.
Of course, yeah, and that's all. That's probably all he's wearing.
I hope more stuff. Yeah, I definitely hope that's not.
I mean, it's good for us for the there's a lot of work that goes involved in getting us to get a casino to say okay to come. It sounds like, I'm sure the comics think, oh, that's probably easy for them. The casino makes a lot of money off this festival, in my eyes, and in your eyes as a comedian. To the casino, the 80,000 that they might make in that week means nothing to them. Trust me, I know. I've talked to casinos that have just shrugged their shoulders and went, no. And it's like, holy shit, that's a lot of money, that gets sold. So we have to sell it. So the more you guys wear that lanyard around, that's good for us. Like, that's good for the festival. That helps us be able to come back next year.
Sorry to interrupt. Stay at the hotel too. Everything that we have scheduled for the festival is at the Stratosphere. We've negotiated a special rate with them. It's really important to support the hotel. Every time that someone books in what they call the attendee block, the performers block, we get a credit to potentially bring another industry member to the festival. So they're providing credits on complimentary hotel rooms for us to, in turn, give to VIP guest members of industry based on how many people book hotel rooms. And not only are we getting a special rate on the rooms, we're also getting a $10 per night discount on the resort fee, which is no joke in Las Vegas. About 8 or 9 years ago, some accountant said, hey, if we break apart the cost of our hotel room into a resort fee and the hotel room fee, we'll collect more money if we were selling through like Expedia or Orbitz. So if you were to book through Orbitz, you'd be paying $35 a night in resort fee.
The resort fee was a deciding factor on us going there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was part of the negotiations. We said to them, unless you can give us a discount on the resort fee, we're not going to be able to make a deal with you guys. So if you stay there,
they were giving you great room rates. And we were like, that's wonderful. You have to give us a deal on the resort fee. And there were so many emails going back and forth. And I just remember reading some that you sent. And I'm like, well, we can't accept that. That's still too much money for the comics. And then we have to come up with a good price for the comics or they're not going to stay. Yeah.
And so the $10 a night, it might not sound like a lot, but if you're there for the entire festival for a week, that's $70. That's almost the equivalent of 3 hotel night costs. Because I think we're
like the cost of the festival.
What's that?
That's the cost of the registration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're basically getting a refund on your registration rate. So one of the things that so Mike is showing, our production team is showing the website right now. So you can go onto the site and Mike, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, I think they have we put a link there that directly links to the special rate. So don't go to the stratosphere.com and book. You need to go through either the link that we send out in the email or this link at the bottom of our webpage in order to get the special discounted rate. Now, I talked earlier about silver linings with COVID, and they're very few and far between. But one of the elements is we've been able to negotiate a pretty good hotel room rate because a lot of people are canceling in Vegas right now. And we've also been able to go back to them to potentially negotiate again. So keep an eye on that page. Book your hotel room as quickly as you can. It's fully refundable once you book the hotel room. So you might as well get your room now.
The more people that book it now, the more we can keep asking them for more things. Like, hey, give us food for the bookers or something like that. And I know that sounds like, what do you care? Well, if they give us something for the industry, like free drinks at a bar, then I tell the industry, hey, go to this bar and you get free drinks. Well, then I tell all of you, all the comedians that are there, hey, at this time, the bookers are going to be there. Like, so, that's how I sell it to the casino. I'm going to go, hey, do you want a bar packed? And they're like, yeah, we'd love this bar packed at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, okay, give me free drinks for my industry. And they're like, well, how's that going to pack the bar? And I go, because the comedians are going to go wherever the industry is. And there's 150 comics running around, so I can pack a bar.
To answer the question that Will has in the chat, and we don't need to copy and paste it in below, but I can just go over it. Our negotiations with the hotel room special is actually outside of industry standard. They've agreed to waive all cancellation fees. So as long as you cancel, I think within 24 hours, there's absolutely no charges whatsoever. So if you can now seem like you can go to the main event, but then that changes in a month, you can contact them and there'll be no cancellation fee whatsoever. They've waived all of that.
Or if it changes for us, it's not something we want to talk about or something we're full steam ahead and we're planning on doing this, but stuff happens and things change daily in this year. So we are doing everything we can to make it happen in November, and we're planning on it, and we're making our moves and our plans for it.
Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on developments in Las Vegas. If you just a quick Google search will show the downward trend of cases in Clark County. Their municipal government has relaxed social gathering restrictions. They're meant to expand from 50 to 250 by the end of this month, which means starting October 1st, LA Comedy Club theoretically should be able to fill at full capacity. They are still going to adhere to all the safety protocols that are being enforced within the city and the state and federally. But we're going to do one of the reasons, and we've probably talked about this in the first 5 minutes of this Q&A, and we talked about it in the part 1 of the Q&A, but one of the reasons why we're at a casino and a club within a casino is that they're going to have all of the regulations in place to deal with the protocols and the policies and procedures relating to COVID. They're going to make sure that everyone is safe that's in there and performing. So we strongly trust them as partners, and we trust that they're going to be enforcing the proper regulations while we're there. We went on a little bit of a tangent here and never got to how is the top 101 determined. So we can go and break that down pretty quickly. The initial...
We shut our eyes and throw a dart at a board.
Yeah, that's how the Oilers got McDavid. We freeze an envelope and then put our hand.
Nobody knows about McDavid or the Oilers. Very few people know about that. 5
of those.
How many does McDavid have?
Mick has 0 yet, but he's going to have at least 4. I hope. So that you owe me $50. The top 101 is determined not by the NHL at all, but by the World Series of Comedy. You can get an automatic placement by finishing top 3 in one of our preliminary satellite events. There's a little bit of duplication of those names. So it means that we have about 70 more names to fill. Plus, not everyone who is automatically qualified accepts the spot. Most people do, but not everyone is able to make it to the main event. So what we do after that is we go off of the rankings of the scores that are provided by our 5 independent judges for your video submission.
They're judging on stage presence and overall. Stage presence, originality, and overall, and 10 points on each category.
Yeah.
Everybody's scored, judged, put into a Google sheet, sorted. Number 1 has this many points, all the way down to as many people who have registered. Every time somebody says no, they're not coming, I copy their name and their score and everything and move it to the bottom of the row and just copy the whole body of the rest of it and move it up. So if somebody drops out of the second round, that's going to affect 2 people. Somebody's moving out of the wild card into that second round, and somebody's moving into the wild card that might not have been there. So I contact everybody as soon as I can to let them know when they're in. We're pretty soon tonight. I'll be announcing the next 20 names. Once we're done with this here, we'll be putting the next 20 names up, and then next Tuesday we'll do another 20. We started that last year. I was opposed to it because I was worried that it would cost me too much work. Jason talked me into it, and I love it now. I think it's a great thing. It's fun. It adds excitement for the festival. And gets everybody confirmed and kind of knows it's less work actually at the end. So,
and then once we have the top 101 determined, we then open up secondary shows that are only available for people outside of the top 101. So if you're in
the top 101, don't confirm or take one of those spots.
For the registered comic show. So we have at least 2 registered comic shows that are scheduled for this year. So if you're not in the top 101, just give me a second. Mike wants to jump on here. So go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to mention about another benefit of being there for as many days as you can that kind of ties in with the 101 based off of how you guys count everything. Even if you don't advance on a show that night, if somebody cancels or can't be there, there has been opportunity if you were next on the list to then all of a sudden be on a show. And that happened at the Satellite in Rosemont at Zany's for me. So I kind of just wanted to put that up.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, Mike. Thanks for bringing that up. That happens so many times where I get up in the morning and there's a text saying my plane can't make it. I'm not going to, or I was in a car, whatever. I can't make it. And I go, okay. And I look at the list and now I'm going back to the wild card shows and I know, sometimes I know who's there and sometimes I don't. But if I know I'm going to pick the first guy and I'm going to call him. And if he's gone and he's like, oh, I already went back to wherever, then I'm going down the list. And so sometimes it's the 10th person, the guy who came in 7th in the wild card is going up on the Tuesday show because 6 people went home.
Yeah. Definitely if you come out, especially for the wild card, stick around at least till Thursday.
Wild card, you should be around all week. That's another thing that some people might not understand, but if you are in the wild card, if you're one of the 45 comics that perform on the Monday shows, you are the only ones from that point on. As soon as those shows are over, you are the only ones that can be moved up into the second round. No one outside of that 45 can take a spot in the second round. If you already perform in the second round and somebody drops out of, say you perform in the second round on Tuesday and somebody drops out on the Wednesday show, somebody from the Tuesday show can't get put into that Wednesday show. You only get to perform in one second round show. So the comics, to me, the 45 comics that are in that wild card on Monday, they should do everything they can to be around. I had a comic who several years ago, he figured this out. He found out how all worked. So he's like, so if I'm there and somebody doesn't show up for the meeting, which most of you know how you have to be there 25 minutes or 35 minutes before for a meeting and stuff like that. He's like, if somebody doesn't show up, I get to go up. And I said, yep. So he came to every meeting. He was there Tuesday for both shows, Wednesday for both shows. I'd look at him and I'd go, sorry, man, everybody's here. I think it was Thursday late show. I looked at him and I went, you're up. And he was like, oh, okay, great. So he was out. I had to go out in the hall and find him, but I knew he was sitting there waiting. He was sitting, I didn't have to look for him. He made it easy. He knew he was the next online. He had, so it was kind of, he took advantage of it and he got to go up again.
Yeah. And so even if you end up not being in the top 101, there's still opportunity for you to get stage time through the registered comic shows. Keep an eye out on your emails. Those will start going out around October 11th or 12th with sign-up sheets. Again, only sign up for those registered comic shows if you're not in the top 101. We don't want to take away an opportunity from someone else to perform, and you can't perform in the top 101 and the registered comic show. You can only be in the top 101.
One of the shows have been turning out to be great, and a lot of industry has been hanging out for them. I mean, we don't require the industry to be there for them. We push and we try and we talk, but we push them to be there for the 101 shows, to judge those shows. But we tell them how important it is to be there. And a lot of comics have walked up to the industry. I love this. They've walked up and said, hey, I'm on the late night show tomorrow. Will you come and watch me? And I've walked by and I'm like, oh, hey, thanks for being here. They're like, oh, I met so-and-so. They were really cool and they asked me to come watch them. So now everyone else is benefiting because that comic had the guts to walk up to an industry. I mean, are they always going to come back and see you? No, but I think if you're in those late night shows, you should really be there early and look for industry and just introduce yourself and hang out a little bit, and that could get them to come back to that late show and see you.
One of the things we should actually talk about regarding your submission video is some of the do's and don'ts. You'd be surprised as a comedian how much the technical aspect of your video influences people's ability to judge your performance. If you're filmed from really far away, you can't see any act outs or any expressions that you have on your face. If the video quality is really poor, the same thing. If it's like whitewash, or if the audio is muddled, or someone's sitting next to the camera and you can hear them talk and laugh and not hear your punchline.
I hate that.
So do yourself a favor, invest in a tripod. Set up the camera center stage, focused and framed on you without the auto focus on. One of the best ways to figure out whether or not you're going to be in focus and filmed well is to talk to other people on the show, especially before you, and offer to videotape them on their behalf. So then you get a test run before you're on your own show. In order to get rid of nerves for, oh, I'm taping my showcase, tape yourself every time you perform. Then you get over it.
Guys, so many comics are like, I'm going to set up a camera crew. I'm going to have them come in here, and you're going to pay money for that. And somebody's going to yell something stupid out in the audience. You're going to tell them to shut the fuck up. And that video's done. You just wasted money. You're better off if you're going to spend $200 or $300 to have somebody come in and film. Go pay $150 for a camera. I used to say, do not film with your phone, but now I'm okay with it because phones, the videos on them are really good. But if you're going to film, do this.
Yeah, landscape, not portrait.
Do this. Turn it long.
The other things to keep in mind are. So you want to be in frame and focused. You want to have good audio. You want to have good video. You want to edit your video to when you start talking. Don't have the MC introduce you. Don't have all that other stuff going on. There's so much free software online that you can easily edit your own video at no cost without a watermark on it to when you introduce yourself. Also, don't do like crazy jump cut style editing like you're getting a Netflix special. This is a submission video. It's supposed to be your best written material, performed well and well rehearsed. I watched a video today
before we started doing all this. I'm still catching up on some of the videos for the main event. I was so mad. Somebody had 22 seconds before they came up on stage. 22. I know 20. You're like, oh, what's 20? 22 seconds. You just wasted 22 seconds of my time.
That's 8% of your time. So you're giving yourself.
I thought I was watching the guy I was supposed to be watching.
Yeah.
22 seconds in, at 20 seconds, he's like, okay, let me bring up the next act. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. What, if I'm a booker.
Yeah. They took it
off. The story I told you where the one video, the guy comes on and he's ripping the shit out of an audience member. And it's not good ripping the shit. He's being really mean. Like, fuck you to this woman, calling her a bitch, like all kind of really bad stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, really? This is the video you sent in? And then he goes, please put your hands together for your next act. It wasn't even the act that we were supposed to be watching. If we watch more, because that's what we say we're going to do. We watch the 5. But if I was a booker and you sent that tape in, you're not getting work. We're shutting it off.
Yeah. We're probably going to run for about another 10 minutes here. Joe, I want to go over a few more things with the video submission, some do's and don'ts. One of the things that you don't want to do is reference another comedian's material that the viewer has no context for. If you do a little riff off of your set, that was great live. That'll be great if you get feature work, but it doesn't help you get the feature work because the viewer has no context for it.
Yeah, I've seen live shows where I love that, and I think that's important in a live show. And I think you should, as a comic, you should always watch the other comics and see if there's something you can, not steal their material, but something you can comment on or something that makes the audience realize that you're just doing that. But like you're saying, Jason, in a video, that's just not good.
Also, don't do crowd work in a video. It off the top, it probably eliminates you from consideration for paid work at half the clubs out there. You have no idea how much a club manager doesn't want their feature act to engage in conversation with the audience before the headliner comes out. Not only are you giving implicit permission for the audience to speak while a comedian is on stage, it also might not be good, might not go well, and also just turn the crowd against you. So if you have the skill to do it, then do it live.
I don't know. You know, a lot of comics may not know what my show's like stuff, but it's a lot of crowd work. And when I was featuring, I still was doing it, and sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't. But I didn't understand why I was having a hard time getting more feature work, or some headliners didn't want to. I was getting the crowd all rowdy and making them think it's okay to talk, and then all of a sudden I'm done, and the next guy's trying to do his stuff, and people are yelling at him, and I'm like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, oh, I did the wrong thing. I made mistakes, and so I mean, if you're good at crowd work, there's places for it. But I learned that I used to send out a video with no crowd work in it to get work, and then when I'd go up the club, I would do what I wanted, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes I never got asked back.
I always say that a showcase video is a totally different skill set than you being out there featuring. Just like an analogy would be a run. There's a big difference between a sprinter and a marathoner. They're both runners, but they're two different skill sets. And with stand-up comedy, you need to learn how to sprint, how to showcase your best in a 5-minute set in order to earn the right to run a marathon. So you really need to work on showcase sets being a very specific skill, different than what you're doing in your 12 and 15 and 25 and 40-minute sets. Your 5 best minutes of well-rehearsed, well-filmed material is what your showcase should be. It's your calling card. It should be professional, and it should reflect what the club is going to get from you as a performer. And then having a good showcase set could get you paid work, which gives you the license to do these other things when you're actually on stage.
You know, something that drives me crazy is when comics come up to me after and they maybe had an okay set, and they're like, well, it's just so hard for me to show what I got in 5 minutes. And I'm like, that's no. In my head, I instantly go, I hope you didn't say that to the booker. Because if you walk up to a booker after you've had a bad set and you say, well, I'm just not good at their first thing is like, if you can't kill it in 5, why would I believe that you're going to kill it in 15, 20, 35, 40? I believe that if somebody's been headlining, and we've had some guys who have registered for this festival that are headliners that have been headlining and doing 45 minutes on a regular basis for many shows. Sometimes that does take some time and learn to get it down to 5. And because they have so much good material that they don't know what to do. And it's so funny because I've had some comics go, why do you let headliners register for this? Well, first off, there's no governing board that says somebody's a headliner feature or whatever. So I can't, decide that. But a lot of headliners who have registered for this festival have not done well early on. It's taken them sometimes quite a while to figure out how to take their material down to a nice 5 minutes. But that's partially because they have a lot of good material.
And also they haven't had to showcase in a long time. Because they're out there working on it.
Or trying to get feature work. Don't go up to somebody and say, oh, I'm better at 25. You should be able to go up and kill it in 5. There should be, if you're doing a 25-minute set and you're used to doing that, pull 5 minutes out of that. That's just, that would blow people's minds. I
want to go over sort of like a few other elements in your showcase video, things to avoid. Joe and I have come up with the big 5 that bookers in general really don't like to see on a showcase video. I know what you're thinking. It's a presumptuous phrase, and it's not true. Yeah,
when somebody starts a show, I know what I'm thinking. No, you don't.
Yeah, no one knows what. Yeah, and then number 2 is I look like, or I know I look like.
There's so many clever ways to do that. Jason, I've seen you help comics so many times figure out just great ways to say it without. Ira Summers is a great example. I mean,
you don't need to use the lazy writing trope of I know I look like a cross between Howdy Doody and Seinfeld or whatever. But if you could later on in a joke as a tag go, that's really rich coming from Howdy Doody's nephew, then that shows that you're aware of what you look like. You're making fun of yourself, and you're a clever writer. So
but basically just say push it. And if you pop off with one of those ones like that as a booker or a festival person, you're like, holy shit, this guy knows it, and he's working hard. He knows what he looks like, and he's really figured out a way to.
You go from the extreme of, wow, that was really lazy writing, and I don't know if I want a lazy writer performing at my club, to, wow, that was really clever writing. So you go from like a huge negative to a massive positive just by rewriting the context of the exact same joke. You're getting the same laugh from the same line. You're just telling it in a much more well-written way. So that's number two.
Ira probably does like 4 or 5 of them in a show, and he never says it.
Yeah.
I mean, he never says this is what I look like, but he gets out that he looks like Vin Diesel's dad. He gets out that he's Nazi Jew, which, I mean, they're just, it's really good. It's good how he does it.
So that's number two. Number one is, I know what you're thinking. Number two is, I know I look like, or I look like. Number three is, make some noise or give it up for. That's horrible. You're wasting everyone's time. A booker is not booking you to ask the audience to make noise. A booker is booking you to get the audience to laugh and applaud.
That's kind of what the host has already done. That they're already that's kind of the host's job, to be a cheerleader, and it kind of sucks and stuff. But when you walk back out, and especially when somebody's like, give it a round of applause for married people, that basically tells me that you have a married joke, that you want to tell a joke about being married, and you don't have the confidence in your joke.
Yeah, you don't need to ask
the joke was not good enough to get the response it needs. So you're going to ask them to give you the response so you feel comfortable telling that joke.
Yeah, you're never going to change your set list based on the response you do. You don't need to ask permission to talk about a subject on stage. Like, these are all just elements where you're appeasing yourself. They're coping mechanisms on stage, and it's
Is that one of our 5 questions?
Don't ask questions. It should be on there. Like
it's one of my top 5.
It falls into the same category of open mic habits. So stuff like, I'm gonna rap now. That's another one.
I mean, I've seen people go, anybody drive here? It's like, are you kidding me? Anybody drive here? Yeah, they drove here. How do you think they got here? What you're telling me is you want to tell a joke about driving, and you want reassurance from the audience that people drove too, so you feel comfortable. Well, if the joke's written well and it's performed the right way, people are going to get it. I don't know. Just be careful on the questions you ask.
Yeah. The other thing too is that you want to make sure that it's saying something like, I'll wrap up with this. It's such a deflating statement. The audience now knows you're telling your last joke, so you've heightened their expectations of it being good. And also, you don't get that moment anymore where you're like, good night. And it's like, oh shit, he's done. I want to see more of him or her.
Yeah.
If you telegraph that you're finishing, you better be finishing strong, and you're losing any kind of anticipation of the fear of missing out on more. It's
if you say that and then your next joke doesn't go well, you kind of taken away the chance for you to just go, because I know it's happened to me, and it's happened to every comic where you've been on stage, you're like, all right, I'm going to close with this. In your head, you say it, and it doesn't get what you want. You're like, I still have 30 seconds. I'm going to try one more thing so I can get out of here with something, So,
and then the last of the big 5 are open mic habits. And so we kind of alluded to one of them, asking too many questions as sort of like a permission indicator to get into a premise. But another one is using really common phrases or words, like the collective noun guys or you guys, to refer to the audience, to like draw their attention back. Your material should be what's drawing their attention. You shouldn't be saying guys, you guys all the time on stage. I've literally sat down and made tally marks of how many times someone has said that during a showcase set, and it's reflected very poorly in the score.
The other thing we didn't talk about was the mic stand.
Yeah, put it away.
I go nuts. Like, if you're a comic who's going to leave the mic and the mic stand, that's fine. Don't fumble with it. Like, if you're a comic who is going to take the mic out of the mic stand, then that mic stand should be taken and put behind you and not used to lean on, not used to twist. If you break the equipment, everybody should make a note of this.
Don't hit the mic.
Break the equipment in any way, you're never coming back to the club. Yeah, every single one of us can be replaced. There's just too many of us comics. And I watched a guy open up for me years ago, and he broke the mic, and then he broke the mic stand. and the club owner had to go get more. And then when I went back to the club, I think it was like 6 or 8 months later or whatever, he's like, you know, your friend who opened up? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, never coming back. And I'm like, why? And he goes, oh, he broke my stuff. I had to go buy new stuff. And that was kind of like the first time it hit me. I was like, oh, holy shit, that's something you don't want to do.
The other good thing about putting the mic stand behind you, first and foremost, it shows that you're comfortable experience on stage. So that projects confidence to the audience and to the bookers that are watching. But also you can now do a physical action that lets the showroom manager or whoever's handling it know that you know you're wrapping up. So instead of saying, I'm going to wrap up on this, you just go back, grab the mic stand. They're like, oh, this person knows that this is their last joke. They're going to wrap up. They saw the light. So they're good, like physical cues to showcase your experience and professionalism. One of the things I do
also, if you're a comic, and I know we're getting off the subject a little bit, but if you're a comic and you don't own a mic or mic stand, what the fuck are you doing? That's like a guitarist not owning a guitar. I mean, these are your instruments. If you go to a showcase or something and you go to take the mic out, and you're a comic who likes to take the mic out of the mic stand, and you take it out and the mic stand gets stuck and it fumbles and it makes a mess and you look like an idiot doing it and it fucks up your whole show. Well, a lot of that could have been avoided if you just practice a little bit at home. Now, you don't need as many mics as Derek Knight.
Yeah, no shit.
Derek's refurbishing mics.
Yeah.
Derek, you can buy an old mic from Derek.
Yeah. Getting a little long on time here, so we're going to try and wrap up in the next couple minutes. There's two last quick subjects that we want to talk about. The first, Mike, can you please put my email up on the screen when you get a second? Regarding the submission videos, well, that was quick, thanks. Regarding the submission videos, you as a registrant of the World Series of Comedy have the opportunity to get feedback directly from our judges on your submission video. All you have to do is email me at jason@theworldseriesofcomedy.com. I'll contact the other 4 judges and we'll compile notes for you and send them off. It usually takes a couple of weeks because I'll do judging independently. We don't see each other's notes and I need to aggregate them from the 4 other judges. But if there's something on those notes that you receive that is like a common thread amongst 3 or 4 of the judges, it's probably a good indication that that's an area of improvement for you to work on. Also keep in mind, we're huge fans of comedy. None of the feedback is personal. It's all about trying to help you improve and showcase yourself in the best light for bookers and judges. And it has nothing to do with the content of your joke, your personality type, whether we like you or not, all that kind of stuff. It's just basically purely on
what we see in the video.
What we see, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's all we have to go on.
The last point that I want to bring is the main event is about showcasing yourself as a comedian, and that extends off the stage. Professionalism on and off the stage is important during that week. You have the opportunity to volunteer with the World Series of Comedy if you'd like. You can help us out in the merch booth with wrangling judges, helping us with food and beverage runs, helping with the box office, or not the box office.
These 2 guys got their job, Mike and Rick, our new hosts.
And so one of the things that can do is it also showcases your dedication to comedy. Like, if you really want to impress some of the industry, I know that a lot of times we get a lot of questions about our volunteers, and that has helped lead them to either work opportunities elsewhere, work opportunities with us, or even paid gigs because they know, the bookers know that that person is willing to hustle and work hard at the industry and business side.
And as about, like, if you're somebody who's a little bit nervous about going up to a booker and talking to him like that, volunteering is a great way, because I'm going to ask you at some point probably to go take this to that booker or go to that. So you're doing a job, which now puts you in an opportunity to say hello to them. So if you're somebody who, because I know, networking is not easy for every comic, and it's not something that everybody wants to do. So if you're somebody out there that's like, man, I'm not comfortable with just walking up to somebody, well, being a volunteer is going to put you in that situation to be able to, and I see the bookers really watch the volunteers too. They really, it's funny how many industry I've had come up and say, man, that guy's a really hard worker, or they really did a good job this week, or you better be taking care of them or helping them out or trying. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing what I can, but I mean, it's incredible how much they watch. And that's really cool that they see that.
We also try and do our best to create as many environments for the bookers and the comics to hang out together, whether we go out to eat after the shows, or we try and find like a safe environment at the hotel to create like a comics lounge where people can hang out with industry or other comics and get to meet other people. It's just a fun week-long event dedicated to comedy. So I highly recommend. I know that I'm coming from a very biased point of view, but I highly recommend that you come out for the full week, stay at the hotel. You're going to run into a lot of people that can help in your comedy career.
Yeah, my number is on the phone. My phone number is on the website. So were you laughing at me because I said my number's on the phone?
Yeah, most people.
You're an asshole. I can tell as soon as I screwed up. You're just like, that's it. Joe screwed up. Yeah. My number's on the phone. My number is on the website. Feel free to call me. So
yeah, my number's on there too, so feel free to call Joe.
Yeah, if you're a comic who hasn't registered and has questions, the first thing I'm going to ask every comic to do, and I know there's a ton of information on the website, but please take some time, go through it. I mean, if you're going to spend the money to register for this festival, or if you already have spent the money to register for the festival, take the time and look at the website. I know it's annoying, but there's everything's on there for a reason. So just click on every page and read it. Just look at it. If you can't see it on your phone, like I get so many emails going, this doesn't work on your phone. Well, I'll do everything I can to make it work on your phone, but I'm not perfect at building a website. But go to a computer somewhere and read it. Look at it. Take some time. Learn about what you've registered. And I'm not talking just about my festival. I'm talking about every festival you register for. Learn about them. No, because they all want. The people who produce these festivals, they're doing it because they love comedy. And they all want to help you some way.
So come on out, meet new comics, network with some industry, hang out, have fun, go to the shows. Hope to see you in November. Anything else, Joe?
That's it. I'm good.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.